Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a great fellow Texan in the house today, Mr. Kevin D. Turner. D is for Dallas, and that's where he's based out of. And I just love that Kevin's on the show today, and we're going to be talking about a really cool topic, which is personal blanding to personal branding, booking your authority as an author as in LinkedIn. And that is our topic. So before we get stuck in, Kevin, I don't know who doesn't know you, but let's just go ahead and you humor them. And for anybody who doesn't know you, can you please just tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Well, absolutely. And Jillian, again, thank you for having me on your show. It's always an honor and a pleasure. I wish we could do this every day. Probably should. Wait. But, I'm Kevin D. Turner. I like the D in there. Makes me a little different from many of the other Kevin Turners out there. I focus on brand strategy, helping individuals and organizations refine what it is they do. And how do you then communicate that so when the opportunity arises, they remember you first? And so, really critical in this day and age, the speed of business, the amount of stuff that's thrown at us all. If you're not getting those branding pieces right, if you're just trying to throw them all into a bin and figure somebody's going to sort them out on the other side, only our moms will do that, right? Nobody else will. And that is that personal or organizational blanding. It's, I could just tell them I'm everything and they're going to pick out the pieces they need, and it doesn't work. And so, that's what we want to talk about, is that branding piece. That is what I love to do. My give back on LinkedIn is helping others just stay ahead of the LinkedIn curve, right? Sharing those new LinkedIn features. And I can't do it alone. I always say, it takes a tribe of caring hearts and eagle eyes and caring hearts. You got to get in there and you got to run this with sometimes your competition, right? With cooperation, I think is what Brenda Miller calls it, right? It's all beautiful in that sense because there's so much there that we can all have a piece of it if we share and help each other out. So, it's part of what I do.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I have had the benefit of working with you and knowing what it's like to optimize my LinkedIn profile. And you gave me so much homework. I walked away and I was busy for weeks. And I still have work today. And we're going to actually get that stuck in it. Hopefully towards the end of this, we can talk about what's Jillian's homework that she needs to do still. But one of the important things, Kevin, is that I know you have worked with so many people doing profile optimization. And let's focus on that today, because I think from an author's perspective, not having your author platform right is just you're leaving money on the table. And you use something like LinkedIn, and we're going to focus on LinkedIn today, because if you've written a business book, this is where you should be playing. This is where you should be hanging. And I was speaking with an author not too long ago that just said, don't look at my LinkedIn profile. It's a mess. And that's the wrong attitude, because you want people to look at your LinkedIn profile, which is why I wanted Kevin to come on the show and help us get this sorted. Because if I was to go to any author, and I would not do this ever on a show, and look at them, would I even know you're an author? Would I even know you've done a book? With some people, it's the fact that you're an author is the best kept secret, and it shouldn't be the best kept secret. So Kevin, I'm hoping you can give us some tips on what authors should do to stop with the personal blanding, envision having a paper bag over your head and we don't know anything about you, versus personal branding, like really owning your lane, to steal Michelle B. Griffin's metaphor.
I love that. And it's so fascinating. If somebody ever told you that my LinkedIn is a mess, if I did find you as an author and I saw your LinkedIn and it was a mess, I would assume your book was too, right? It could be the best written book. It could be packed full of information. But if your profile looks like you don't know what you're doing, you've got bits and pieces, things aren't working, I'm going to assume the book's kind of like that. And so I'm going to stay away, right? We can't buy every book. We go broke if we did. There's so much coming out so quickly, that you really have to stand out. You've got to get into it immediately. I'm visually wired, always have been. So, when I open a profile, first thing I look at is the individual's picture, right? And the background banner. And these are, the background banner itself is a perfect place to first establish this authorship, right? Even if you're working for another company, right? You're at PwC, whatever it is, but you've written a book on branding, bring it in to that background banner, because that background banner is really about you, and it should always be focused on moving you forward. And if you're working for a company, they should be kind of excited that they've got an author of a best-selling book helping them do what they do. So it helps build their brand as well. So, make sure you're using that visual. There's always that saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? I see so many terrible ones, that give the wrong message. Really focusing on moving it forward. As an author, if you do book signings, right? Have a picture of you doing a book signing and then display the books. Or if you are presenting on the topic and the book is kind of a tool to get you to those presentations, your public speaking, that's a perfect visual to bring in. And then you can put copies of the book in there, and people would immediately see that and they say, not only is Jillian an author, she's a public speaker. Maybe we should have her in for the next convention and we'll buy her book, right? So you tie these visuals together to move you forward. Really critical at the very beginning in that process. So, I always like people to understand that. From there, you're going to step in. The next thing that we all see is that headline. And I'm amazed when I went out and I started looking for authors I knew and those I didn't know, the majority of them didn't put author in the headline. So how would I know, right? So very important to bring it in there. I saw that you've got 5 times or 5x author, right? I would even add 5 times best-selling author, right? Those kind of things really establish fast. They grab us quickly. You might even use, 5 with the emoji star of sorts, just to jump out from the text. But, that component coming in really is your handshake, right? It's your introduction. If you appear in searches, it's what people read to decide whether they're going to click through to really, view deep into that profile. So make sure it's in there, even if it's not, the point isn't maybe to sell the book, but it's to get the authority, right? If I'm in, sales management and I've written a book and it says author of the best-selling sales management book, and that comes up in a search and everybody else looks the same, right? Beat my quota, did this, did that, blah, blah, blah. That one stands out. Not only do they know what they're doing, but they're good enough to write a book about it and it was a bestseller. That's a huge statement. And, you don't have to pump it up much. It's right there. It has an effect. So bring it into that headline. And I'm one of these that I usually like to start the headline with something creative. You can start it with something creative about that book, a little known fact, potentially, that came out in the process, something to drive them to want to then know more. So, that's a couple areas that I think people don't get right at the very beginning. And then, from there, in that same, what we call the top card of a profile, right? We call it a top card. It's like a business card. You can leave it, believe it or not, digitally on other people's desks, and they'll see it when they see, who's visited my profile. They'll see that top card. But in that top card, you also have this custom link. So if you've got a book, right, you probably want to sell some of that book, custom link where they can find that book. And I know that you had a live just recently. I think it was with Michelle that you went over that book linker. That's a perfect place for book linker, right? Because we're global on LinkedIn. So if somebody in Denmark or somebody in Canada or Mexico or the United States opens our profile and they click that book linker, then they're going to be able to buy it from their localized Amazon. And it might even be translated. Who knows? Depending on what you've set up as your book. But it's a huge opportunity. And the other component of that is if you have premium, although you can't put that kind of customized link to follow you around LinkedIn, you can still create a customized link just for the profile. And then you can put the link, visit my profile, which brings them right there. And they're going to see this visual and they're going to see where to buy that book. So all in that top card. So I think that's, to me, really, really important to get those pieces together, right? That's the launch part. Next you jump in, you've got this incredible about section. Most people get it wrong, right? They start out with something that sounds like everybody else that isn't very exciting. And you really should look at that about section as a way to introduce this book, to introduce the fact that you have the authority in that subject matter, and start it out with something that makes people curious, right? Almost like a newspaper article. If you read the headlines of a newspaper article, sometimes they have very little to do with what the article is itself, but it is so fascinating. You have to then see more, and that's what you want on the about section, is that little intro, that hook. And you can use that. I'm so good at sales management. I've written the best-selling book. What a great intro. I'm going to click on see more and find out how you did this. You don't have to tell me anything more about the book. You've already put the piece there, but it's enough to get me to click. So I always say, start your about that way. If you're an authority in your area and you've written a book about it, that's a perfect entry to the about, to get them to click see more, to get them to do and learn more about you. And then, by the time you're done at the bottom of that about section, you should be then giving them a CTA, right? A call to action, a reason to either reach out to you, to connect to you, or maybe at that point it is even to download, buy, or whatever the book itself, or even book you for a speaking engagement. Don't end your about section without that CTA, right? Because basically you've given them a reading practice and nothing else to do. So sometimes when we assign homework, it never really gets done. And so give it to them right then and there so they can act upon it, right? And to me, that's important. And follow that section with your featured section, right? Add in that featured section. Bring in that book cover, right? Have it lead to other areas. Have it lead to that book linker from that piece. Great way to highlight it. So, to me, those are some of the start points. A moment back on the banner, there's some people who are doing it really, really well. You've done a great job. Judy Hayes has done a great job. Jeff Young's done a great job. Jihan Haridi, if I say it right, Arnowski has done a great job. And she's actually in her background banner speaking. And then it's got the book in there as well. So it kind of pulls that theme together. Melissa Cohen has done an incredible one. And she did hers as the business premium feature of that banner slider, right? Her first piece is about what she does in branding. And the second one that comes in is about the book that she co-authored. So it's a perfect kind of step through into, I do this, and this kind of proves that I know how to do it, right? And so it's a good blend in there. Where do we want to go from here, Jill? Because, you let me know, and I will keep going.
These are fantastic tips, and I just have to follow back and say, with the about section, I never thought about leading with the book. I think that most authors would say, okay, I'm going to talk about the business I do on LinkedIn. Maybe I might include that I've written a book in my about. I don't even know if I've done now mine. I was thinking this, as you were talking, it's like, now I have to go back and check because I thought I did a really good about section, but I don't know if I included the book in the about. And to me, the idea of leading with the book, I think there's this maybe obstacle authors do with, we don't want to come across as like too salesy, like buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. But maybe it's really not about buy my book. It's I need to leverage my book. I'm not trying to sell my book. Hopefully if it resonates for them, they'll buy it. But we don't want to just keep selling our book. It's more about leveraging what the book represents. And so that was a really big aha for me, that if I led with the book and maybe just something curious, a conversation thing. One of my books is I took 21 years to write my first book, and now I'm a 5-time author. So once I got over it, then I got productive. Well, that might resonate for somebody else. So maybe that's what I should be leading with on my own profile. So that was just like light bulb.
And I think you're right. I mean, it establishes what you then want them to know about you in a very quick form. If you think about people who have written books, it's impressive because it is quite a feat, right? It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of kind of planning in the process, understanding of how things are published and placed and brought out into the market. Just the fact that you can say you've written a book, and in your case, 5, right? Best-selling books. That's huge. It tells me a lot about you without you having to say anything more about the individual books or the book itself. What it tells me about you is that you are organized, that you can communicate, that you understand what it takes to take these concepts into writing and get them out into the market where they help others. It's a lot saying, right? In just a few words.
Yes.
So, definitely use it as the intro.
And I especially think too, what you said about really utilizing it in your headline, and that a lot of people who are maybe, especially people who are relatively new to LinkedIn, don't recognize that headline follows you wherever you go.
Absolutely.
And, it's like if you post a comment on somebody else's post, a portion of that headline is there. If people go to look to connect with you, they're going to see the headline. It's like it follows you everywhere. So that's kind of like, I almost think of like your banner, your background photo is your billboard, but this is kind of like your ticker tape that goes with you on LinkedIn. And, probably even recognizing you want to front load the author at the beginning because it gets cut off, right? That's
I think with yours, it should start with that 5-time best-selling author. I'd click on your profile. I want to know somebody who's written 5 books, right? You didn't have to sell the book. You didn't have to sell yourself. You kind of gave them a fact that makes you stand out. It's not bland at all, right? It is a definite fact, and people are amazed when somebody writes a book, right? Think about when they write 5 and start there, because you then capture them. They're going to read the rest of that. They're going to want to go to the profile and devour the content on that profile. So to me, that absolutely makes sense, and use it in that sense. The other thing I think, and I haven't seen much of this, but I've seen a few, as LinkedIn is really, really pushing video right now. I think authors need to start building book trailers, like a movie trailer, right? Get me excited about the book. Why should I buy it? What is it telling me? Do that 60-second vertical video, right? Put it in LinkedIn. If your topic is anywhere near a trending news topic, then you want to reach out to the news editors in that area, right? And let them know, because if they then pick it up, they will push it into that immersive feed. And we've done this with a couple of individuals where they've had video posts that have 12 million views. That's exposure, right? I mean, incredible in that sense. But it's easier to do than you think. And I think, if more authors did these kind of book trailers, much like we, launch a TV show on Netflix or a movie, right? Make them exciting, give them just enough to want to know more. And I think it's a perfect format for that. And LinkedIn is going to promote it because they're so about video right now. And you could break that book up even into video trailers about each kind of chapter, right? In that evolution. You're only giving them 60 seconds. They've really got to step up and buy it really to get the rest. But you give them enough, right? To get them excited, to get them to buy into it. And I think doing those trailers and then taking that trailer and pulling it into your featured section. So if you've posted it, you can pull it in as a post, right? If you then take that, you could even bring it out to YouTube and repurpose it on YouTube, right? And pull that way in. If you're expanding from there, do the newsletter, right? Do the newsletter about what you're doing or about the book itself and pull those embedded videos into the newsletter so they can get a better feel. So there's a lot of ways that LinkedIn kind of lays it all out, right? Gives us these opportunities, but very few people take them. And if you've already done some of the work, it's easy then to kind of repurpose it into these other tools and get even more exposure. So to me, that's exciting. I'd love to see more book trailers out there. And I haven't seen too many, only a few.
No, I'm gonna take up that challenge. So that's Jillian's homework. So I'm getting lots of homework today. I'm getting lots of homework, and I'm supposed to be the video person. So it's like, okay, I have like kind of like why I wrote these books videos, and I have leveraged that on my profile. That's a good start, but I don't really have any trailers. So that's okay, great. Another idea. Let's speaking of people and trailers and whatever, I'm going to bring in some of our viewers today just so that we have all the people who are joining us. We got Jeff Young, who always does a quick little blurb from YouTube, and he says, always brand, be real and never doubt, and never bland, be a loser and never distinctive. So I love that. I love that. And Jeff also says, greetings from the Hall of Justice. I mean, the front row, Jillian and Kevin. And by the way, we're in a superhero thing with Jeff. So it's just, it's great. He's one of our best buds, Wendy is here and she says, Jeff Young, laugh out loud right here with you. And yay, we love that, Wendy, that you're here with us today. And we have Merrill, and he says, hi, Jillian and Kevin. I'm excited to be joining you both live from Paramus in New Jersey. Okay, cool. We're bringing in all over today, and I love that. Kevin Dallas Turner, a.k.a. Batman. See, it's the superhero theme that comes through.
Many things with that D. Dallas is probably one of the better ones.
Yes. I'm claiming that. I came up with that. I was sure it was the D was for Dallas. So Merrill says, awesome to have Texas in the house. Now I need to invite my first degree Texan connections, including Christy Klein. Okay, well, that's good. We like the more the better. We got Sarah Clay. So we know we are across the pond. We've gone a little bit further. Yay, Kevin. So Sarah Clay's here. Hey, Jillian and Kevin both in one room. We love Sarah. She's great. And talking about Brenda Meller here. We love Brenda Meller, and we gave her a little shout earlier. And we got Merrill is like our he's like our inviting it, welcoming everybody. Oh, look at this. We got Roy coming in Australia, waking up at 5:00 in the morning to join us on the live. So we always love that. Thank you, Roy. And Jeff says, "G'day, mate." So they're all talking back and forth, always having fun. We've got somebody coming in from Arizona, but we don't see who they are. So that's another blanding. Unfortunately, when you don't have your settings, it does revert to blanding. Eek, author rushes over to check profile to see if there's enough mention of her book. It happens to the best of us, and I think, like I said earlier, I think it's like I call it selling from the heels. And this is just me, Jillian, speaking, not Sarah Clay. But I'm just responding to this, and that sometimes we're a little hesitant to talk about our book because we feel people are just going to be like sick of us. They're going to be sick of us. But the thing is that people, you launch a book and then people forget about it. And I meet with people and they'd be like, I didn't know you did 5 books. I didn't even know you did 1 book. Because they're like connections or whatever, and they're just not even aware. So I always look at it like this, Kevin, that it's like, I just need to tell you about my book. If it's of interest, you'll buy it. I'm never going to bang it over your head, go buy my book. But there's no harm in telling people you have it, because they might say, that's just exactly what I need is your book, right? Or they'll tell a friend, right? They'll pass it on.
Absolutely.
They'll pass it on. So Jeff says, laugh out loud, quick profile updates coming. Hysterically. So I love that. And Margaret says, hello, everyone. Thank you. So I guess Meryl's bringing people in. Somebody says, use a hook, use a great hook. That's gold. Absolutely. Absolutely. Americo says, our profiles are filled with prime real estate, investing in ourselves to be seen, heard, and remembered. And that is absolutely so important. So important. So Kevin, I did want to just kind of make sure I asked you about my homework, because I think this will matter to other people too. So before we went live today, I said, hey, is there anything that you, looking at my profile, you'd say, Jillian, this was good, but here's some other homework you might want to invest in. So can you tell people what you mentioned that I should be looking at?
Do we have another half an hour? I think you've done a great job. And I think, there's always areas you could improve. And one of those, I would bring in that 5 times best-selling author right at the beginning of your headline. Make sure you lock that in, because then I don't know of any others, right? I want to know you. I want to then go farther, deeper in. So I think that's an absolute. I think your banner, you could do more with that banner. You could put yourself presenting, because you do presentations on this stuff.
Right.
You could be talking about it. You could do a little more in the sense of getting that to be exciting.
What about the search? Optimizing myself for search. That's what I was thinking of.
Search, and we didn't even really get down into that experience section. There's a couple of things. The first one I would say is make sure if you're going to do books, or if you're going to do more than one book, or even if you have one really good book, set up a business page for that book. Use the book itself as the logo for the business page, right? If you're going to do a series of books, come up with a creative name, right? Easy peasy books. You probably already got that.
That is a series. So yes.
So pull that business page over into your experience, and then be sure that you want to fit into the categories of LinkedIn as a search database, right? 1.2 billion profiles out there. You don't want to get lost. So you got to fit the categories. So when you get down into the title and you've got like author of blah, 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 that's not a market value filter. What you've really done within that is you've taken yourself out of the ability for somebody, let's say, using Recruiter, right, to find you. And people are like, well, is a recruiter going to find me to buy my book? Maybe not. But because Recruiter is 65% of LinkedIn's $17 billion annual revenue, they have built the site to function around servicing recruiters. So the same search technique that's in a recruiter system is the same search technique that's in that little box at the top. And so if somebody's looking for an author, those who put it in as a market value filter and they just put author or a book writer or whatever comes in the drop-down box, right? That's that market value filter. Select one of those and you'll be higher in the search results. So if somebody's looking for somebody, bestseller book, author, use the ones that you find in the drop-down box in that experience area. Pull that business page over, and LinkedIn will promote that constantly, whether it's to a recruiter or not, doesn't matter. It's to anybody looking on LinkedIn, right? So you're going to use the database best practices to be found. And that was one thing that I need a little work on.
Wow. And I would assume too that it's like if you also want to do speaking engagements to go with your book, use the same thing. Use the market value filters so
Next
that
position down, right? From this date to present, I'm also a keynote speaker or public speaking or whatever, again, falls in that drop-down box that fits best for you. And use that. And again, then you'll start getting those speaker engagements, those searches of people looking for a speaker who also wrote a book, right?
Wow. No,
that is one of those things. Often when they look for a speaker, they love it when they've written a book.
Sure.
It's an easier intro. And when they've written 5 books, why not? Right?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely brilliant. And I must say, for anybody who wants to know what is market value filters, how does this all work? You have a fabulous YouTube video on that, Kevin, that kind of walks everybody through that. So I'm going to go ahead and I will put that in the show notes and the comments so that everybody can, do that as homework, because really understanding how that market value filter works. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to Kevin's YouTube channel, because there's just so many great things on your channel. So highly recommend that, because you give away so much value for free there. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. So, okay, we come to the end of our 30 minutes. We literally could have taken like 5 hours to talk about this topic. There's so many things. We can't go through everything, but at least we've hit some like really incredible things. And anybody who wants to work with Kevin, highly recommend. I've worked with Kevin, and just you can just do so much better with our profiles. So connect with Kevin, follow Kevin, reach out to Kevin, whatever. So is there anything sort of, to final words of wisdom you'd want to share with us today, Kevin?
The only thing we didn't cover that I think is cool is create a virtual book tour. Like you do, Solid Book, you go to the stores and you sign and create a virtual one. Use live, use audio events, get into podcasts, and link those all the way back to that section, right? So, to me, that's important. And then look for book bloggers. We have a few within our own little group that do incredible book reviews, and find them, introduce them to your book, and see if they'll then present it, because that even drives more back to you as well. So, don't think it's everything that you've got to do. You can bring in others to help promote the process as well.
I love that. And that's absolutely golden. And the important thing is, I'll tell you, as somebody who brings authors on my show, and, we talk about different topics, and just whenever I do LinkedIn Lives, I always go to somebody's profile before I make a decision on whether I want to bring them on my show or not. So always make sure that your profile is good to go, so that when you do pitch to be on other people's shows, that they just go, okay, like Kevin said, if your profile's a mess, then we're not going to have a lot of confidence in your book either. So sorry. It's good. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Kevin. I'm definitely going to have you back on. We're going to talk about more stuff in the future, and just appreciate you so much sharing your advice today. And thank you for being here. Really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, from author to authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.